The Cosmic Colloquium, brought to you by the Cosmos Society.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 1 of the Cosmic Colloquium. I'm your host, Umar. I'm the current head of astronautical engineering here at the Cosmos Society. And today is sort of a primer episode in first establishing the Cosmic Colloquium and a little bit of discussion of what's to come in Cosmos in the immediate future, as well as some very interesting discussions regarding the NASA Artemis mission, among other things. So, first off, the NASA Artemis mission. For those who are unaware of the Artemis mission, which is probably unlikely for listeners of this podcast, but just in case, the Artemis mission is NASA's current proposal for revamping the original Apollo program, but in a modern era. So what was great about the Apollo program was that, it sent 12 men to the moon, but that was mainly as a consequence of the space race, competition with the Soviets. Now that doesn't exist, and now that there's this, increased push towards privatization, specifically with space travel, NASA wants to capitalize on that and sort of foster the next generation of space exploration by establishing a permanent presence on the moon. Now, once we have an established moon presence, the potential for exploration of our solar system goes up in numerous ways. So first off, it's much easier to launch off from the moon than it is compared to Earth. You have no atmosphere, you have a very low gravitational pull as compared to the Earth, and assuming that we're able to mine water or any sort of fuel, because water makes good rocket fuel if you split it into hydrogen and oxygen, the potential for Mars missions that are way more cost-effective is much higher, and I believe that is what NASA's plan is. Once we establish a moon base, then we can start looking towards Mars. Now, the timeline for the moon's mission is on the scale of 3 to 4 years, and the Mars mission is on the scale of roughly 10 years. Now, because NASA is a government organization, after all, there's always some bureaucratic presence involved in that. We will see at least 2 presidents on the scale of the next 10 years, and with new administrations comes new budgets, etc., so who knows, but with current estimations, NASA at least thinks that it can make it to Mars via the moon by the early 2030s, which, I'm very optimistic about, and here at Cosmos, we're all very optimistic about. But that was basically a summary of the Artemis mission and the missions to come as a result of the Artemis mission. But let's discuss what's actually coming in the immediate future. August 29th, very soon from now, is the Artemis 1 mission launch. So the Artemis 1 is going to be a mission to the moon, not manned, but to the moon to test out the SLS. The SLS is the Space Launch System, and it is essentially the Saturn V, but bigger and better, with better technology, etc. The Saturn V, of course, was the spaceship that sent astronauts to the moon during the Apollo missions, and it had some flaws, but all things considered, with the technology they had at the time, it was an engineering marvel. And the SLS essentially takes what was good about the Saturn V, combines it with modern technology, modern safety features, and we have what is pretty much one of the greatest rockets of all time, assuming it works. The development of the Saturn V was clouded by a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of cancellations, a lot of, administration changes, from Trump to Biden, a lot of developmental issues, but it's finally here. and we will hopefully see it working perfectly on August 29th. The SLS has, like I said, much better safety features. For example, the capsule where astronauts are housed will have retro thrusters attached straight to it that can quickly maneuver and separate from the main sort of mass of the rocket should anything bad happen. So, for example, say there's a malfunction mid-flight, it can quickly disengage from the main rocket and then go to safety using those thrusters, and has a lot of much better safety features as compared to, the Columbia and the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster, which unfortunately killed 14 astronauts combined between those two calamities. As for power output, 15% more power than the Saturn V. I did a quick Google search, and the Saturn V was so powerful, it produced around 160 million horsepower at maximum output. Now, to give some perspective, the average family sedan has like maybe 150 horsepower, so literally multiply that by a million, and that's how much power is in the SLS system. That's how much power was in the Saturn V. 15% more on top of that will be the power output of the SLS. So, really exciting stuff. Hopefully, the mission will go as planned, and the Artemis program can continue ahead as scheduled. Now, that was a quick rundown about what's going on at NASA, at least in the aerospace sector. We'll be covering a lot more about the Artemis program and any other relevant NASA programs at Cosmos on our website and Instagram page. And when the SLS launches, we'll be doing a quick review of the launch, and looking forward to that. But I'd like to take the time now to discuss another very interesting development in the aerospace world, which was the recent announcement made by Relativity Space regarding a proposal for a mission to Mars by 2024. Now, to be clear, this mission to Mars will not be sending humans. It'll be sending a payload for future missions, but it's miles ahead of what both NASA and SpaceX have planned to have proposed so far, at least with regards to Mars. So, to give a quick rundown, Relativity Space was a company founded in 2015 by two entrepreneurs, and since then they've accumulated massive amounts of funding. I believe they're valued somewhere in the billions, between the range of $5 to $10 billion. So they're not messing around. They've only been around since 2015, so they're a pretty new company. But already they have recently announced within the past week that they plan on launching a payload to Mars. Now, say what you want about the privatization of space. Personally, I'm a fan of it as long as it's open for as many companies and entrepreneurs to get involved, because say what you will about capitalism, say what you will about the free market, but the facts remain that it is the most efficient way of allocating resources towards new industries. But I understand a lot of people would disagree with me on that point. But regardless, this 2024 mission proposal essentially plans to use their very own 3D printed rocket. Not 3D printed in the hobbyist sense, obviously. They use metal, but they do use massive 3D printers to build the rockets, which I think is really interesting. And by 22, the rocket is called the Terran R. It's a little bit similar to SpaceX's rockets. It's not really the sort of NASA-style SLS Saturn V type of rocket with, massive boosters and whatnot, but it's a cool rocket, and we'll be covering it a bit more here at Cosmos later on. But that is Relativity Space's recent announcement, and we're looking forward to seeing how they go forward with this plan. Very exciting stuff. With the added amount of competition that Relativity Space and other companies like it add to the space industry. We're going to see a lot of competition with a bunch of new companies popping up, and probably we'll see competitors for even established companies like Boeing and SpaceX on the come up soon. So interesting stuff. Very excited to see where they plan on going with this proposal, if they'll end up being able to follow through. And also, just to give a little bit of perspective, SpaceX, which is known throughout the industry as one of the most ambitious astronautical firms in existence, they are regularly contracted by NASA, plans to land on Mars by the late 2020s, but they haven't yet given a date. And the fact that Relativity Space has confirmed a set date indicates that they're pretty serious about this. So really interesting stuff, and here at Cosmos, we're very excited to see where they go through with this. And just lastly, before I conclude this first primer episode of the Cosmic Colloquium, I would like to branch away into popular culture. So science fiction has always been a pretty popular genre, and recently, with the up-and-coming privatization of space, like I discussed, we're seeing a hard push towards what people call hard science fiction. So it's science fiction that's sort of grounded in reality. Star Wars and Star Trek wouldn't be hard science fiction, but a movie like The Martian would. And here at Cosmos, myself and the co-founders of the Cosmos Society are very invested in the television show For All Mankind. I promise you, this is not sponsored. This is just a recommendation for anyone listening that has a passion for space, aerospace engineering, and anything to do with that field in general. I would highly recommend the show For All Mankind on Apple TV+. It is a great show, very well written, very strong characters, and great CGI. So, I'm Omar. I've been your host for the first episode of the Cosmic Colloquium. Thank you, and see you on the next one.